Alright, good morning and welcome to this video today. Today we have something for the beginners. This is one of the most requested video topics, one of the most commonly asked questions I get. Hey Chris, how can I scale up a store from zero to hero basically? If you're just starting out, how does it work? How do I set it up? And I get it because especially in the beginning phases, there's a lot of doubt if it doesn't work straight away. A lot of anxiety even if it's not profitable. A lot of emotions in general, so let's break it down, let's look at it, how to set it up, and let's dive straight into it. So key summary, one of the key principles, if you just start out with a small budget, 50 to 100 bucks a day, which is kind of the minimum budget always, you cannot afford waste. That's pretty clear, right? So you don't have huge budgets yet, you don't have hundreds of winners with a great drawers, and you cannot test a lot yet. So you have to keep it lean, you have to keep it efficient. That's one of the key principles for the later parts of the videos that you have to understand. So you keep it simple with the campaign structure, you keep it lean, you cannot afford waste, you cannot go super broad yet. Otherwise it will not be profitable, right? If you're willing to accept that, fine, then you can afford some waste. So, but yeah, basically you want to focus on, if you have a small catalog, you want to focus on the hero SKUs. It depends on your niche, of course. If you're more like into the jewelry niche, fashion niche, home decor niche, where you have a lot of SKUs, you start with one campaign, all products, but you make sure that these products are top-notch, properly optimized, proof winners. Otherwise, of course, if you just upload randomly, you will have this waste, right? And then it cannot be profitable, right, from the start, because especially in the beginning, when you need to gather some data, you want to make sure your products are properly optimized so you can hit this mark super quick, because that's key. So every store usually starts out super slow. And I know, you see it on Instagram, X, or wherever all the time, where people are like, oh, I scaled my store from zero to whatever in this amount of time. And yes, it's possible. Yes, we had countless of these cases with the agency as well. I think our fastest was from 0 to 100K in 12 days. So, and even right now we have a store that we had 100 euros budget a day only last week around the same time, and now it's at 2.6K a day. So it is possible, you know. But here again, that store was live for quite some time before, gathering this initial data at 5,100 a day, where it wasn't that quick, right? So it wasn't like from 0 to whatever in this short amount of time. So we had to hit this 50 to 100 conversions first, and in that period, and I think it was also like 2-3 weeks, it was quite unprofitable, or around break-even mark. So it is quite slow in the beginning, you know. You need to gather the data first, and that's something you have to understand as beginner, because obviously you want to speed it up. Obviously you see all these results and everything gets highlighted in this beautiful way where you can just skyrocket right from the start, but that's rarely the case. It is possible, but it's rarely the case. Usually it takes some time, and with time we mean data actually, not time. You need to hit this 50 to 100 conversion mark a month, or like also in total at first, as quickly as possible, because then you start to see some momentum coming in, you know, because then you start to get out of the learning phase, everything runs a bit smoother, the results get better, you can start to scale up, which basically speeds up the whole process, and then things get rolling, right? And that was kind of like the case with this client that I've mentioned earlier as well. We were at 100 and now we're at 2.6K a day, and it happened rather quickly. And even that's quite a rare case, right? But it was like the same thing. We had to go to this 50 to 100 conversion mark, and then we can continue to scale. All right, so we know the key principles. Let's continue. And I always like to look at the common mistakes first, because that's kind of like, yeah, that's what you fuck up, right? All of you, most of the time. So let's look at it. One of the most common mistakes I see at this level is too many campaigns. You try to split it up too much, you try to be smart, you're like, okay, I have this like proven winner, I will put that in a separate campaign, I will put this product category in a campaign, I will do this and I will do that, and everything sounds so smart in the beginning. But you have to understand, if you put it in different clusters, this phase just takes longer, because then you need 50 to 100 conversions per campaign, per asset group. So if you split it up like that, you need more data to get out of the learning phase. That's the only thing, you know. You can split it up, it's fine, nothing wrong with it, but it takes you even longer. So it's usually not smart, and even with bigger accounts, we try to stay away from splitting it up too much. So we want to be very smart about it. Like, does it make sense? Why do we want to split it up? How do we want to split it up? Because consolidation is key. Like, you need that data power and you need it consolidated in one campaign. If you split it up all over the place, even 100 conversions mean nothing if you have 20 campaigns, right? And I had countless of these cases before when I took over accounts from other agencies. And the first thing we did was just consolidating it if the campaign split didn't make any sense. And after a couple of days, we saw performance improvements already with just that, nothing else. So that's super important, and that's something I see from beginners as well. They always want to split it up in faster ways. Then the next thing is, and I have a video on that as well, you want to set up your PMax as a feed-only campaign, right? So you force Google to spend your budget on shopping primarily and not on search, display, YouTube. So you don't want to add assets, you don't want to add headlines and all of that. So that's still kind of like not a black hat, but kind of like a gray hat way to do it. Google knows it's possible, you know, but it's not really an official thing. But that way you force the campaign, your PMax campaign, to spend more on shopping. And by the way, you can also start with shopping in the beginning, but I like to start with PMax right from the start actually, if everything is set up in a clean fashion. Tracking clutter, super important. Make sure, first of all, you have a proper tracking. Otherwise, that part will be tricky, right? If you don't track your conversions. So you want to have proper tracking and one primary purchase conversion action. Because we see it a lot, and especially with guys that use retrack. Because with retrack, it's a bit unique. By default, if you like set everything up, page view, add to cart, begin checkout, purchases, I think everything is as a primary conversion action in the account, which means you track basically everything, right? And not just purchases. So you only want to have the purchase active as primary. The rest can be in the account as secondary conversion action, as a secondary conversion goal, just for observation purposes. But you want to have one primary conversion action. That's your purchase. And that's it. All right, and then the last 2 points kind of go hand in hand, but let's start with that first. Scaling too fast, or also like just budget changes too often, too quickly, too fast, too big in general. So the moment you see some momentum coming in, you're like, oh, that works. And then you go from 100 to 400 or whatever, like it's some random Facebook campaign, which is too much. It's too big of a jump. You want to move in smaller steps, 10-20%. In the beginning, you can be a bit more aggressive if momentum comes in, but you know, not like that. From 100 to 150, cool. 100 to 200, even cool. If you make a jump that big, it will not work, you know, your performance will tank as well. And also vice versa, like if you are at the level, you scale and then you see, oh, performance wasn't great today. What do? You immediately jump back, right? You immediately do a change again. So you guys are usually very impatient, or with you guys, I mean, beginners are usually very impatient with that stuff. And keep in mind as a principle, you want to give it always like at least 3 to 4 days, or at least 3 days. 3 days is kind of like the minimum, all right? So for example, I mean, sure, scale if you see momentum comes in, but if you increase the budget then, give it 3 days. See how it does. Give it some time, you know? And then you scale back. And the same thing goes like in all the direction. If you want to scale back, all right, give it 3 days. And then also like vice versa again, if performance is great at the higher level, also look at it a bit longer. Give it 3 days. All right, scaled up, performance is still good, but give it some time. Don't immediately increase it again. Unless the momentum is so strong and you can see it, you know, like, okay, it makes sense, scale up. But as a key principle, just give it some time, which, and that's what I said before, it goes hand in hand. Beginners are usually too emotional. They make too many hectic, irrational changes all the time. Related to budget, related to campaign splits, related to tracking and whatever. Everything you can imagine, just too much, too quickly, all the time. Because it comes from the point of, all right, I want to do something, right? I have to do something. I need to change something. I need to optimize something. And then you have the case of death of over-optimization, right? When people just constantly change something and they cannot sit down and like observe, wait, be patient, look at it a little bit longer, and yeah, just give it some time. So those 2 points kind of go hand in hand, but super important. Keep that in mind. All right, so let's dive into it then. Why $100 a day is different? We kind of discussed it already. Okay, you don't have a lot of data yet. You cannot afford waste. You have to keep it simple, right? You cannot split it up too much. You cannot chase everything. Basically everything that we discussed already. The last point is key. You must force Google to learn fast on one clean, strong signal. And as we said, you have one campaign, all products, or your hero product, depending on what kind of niche you're in, what kind of store is that. If you have a hero product with a couple of up and cross sales, you want to focus just on the hero product in that campaign. No overlaps, just one campaign. Consolidation is key, faster learning, so you get to that phase quicker, right? So we basically discussed all of that already, but let's get through it step by step. Then your feed is super important. You can do that with the Google Channel app or also Simprosys. Just make sure the titles are optimized, super important for Google. So the main keyword needs to be in the title. That's the main thing. And just the optimized feed in general. So you have a higher impression share, better targeting, add relevant feed attributes like gender for fashion, for example, the age group, the material, Google product category, super nice for the beginning. So make sure you have all that set and don't just randomly upload some products, a feed with one campaign, because then you will have this waste, right, that you want to avoid. So don't be surprised if it's not working, if your products are shit in the first place and then they're also not optimized. All right, everything else needs to be set properly, of course, availability, shipping, so you avoid GMC suspensions. And what you can also do later, but just forget that part. That's like quite advanced actually for this video. We also like to label products so we can analyze and segment them later on for reporting purposes or also campaign splits later on. All right, then as we said, for assets, don't upload any assets, no headlines, no videos, images. And also, like, again, this depends on the niche, but for most cases, if you're just starting out and you do Google only primarily, even if you're already advertising on Facebook and you want to start on Google, start with a feed only PMax, all right? Focus on shopping only, avoid the assets, because then Google likes to spend a lot of budget on relatively low quality properties, like on display, even on YouTube, you know, which you just want to, everything has its place, but you want to avoid it for the start. You want to focus on shopping because that has the highest return on investment for you, especially in the beginning phases, right? So don't overcomplicate. Yeah, there's a slight mistake here. You don't want to unlock search, YouTube, display, just shopping, all right? Just shopping. Then tracking discipline, we discussed it before, one primary conversion purchase. Make sure you have the good tracking in place. We also said it's super important. So you have enhanced conversion tracking, server-side tracking. So you just track everything that happens, right? Because let's say you have 4 sales in the backend, but you just track one in the Google Ads account. That's the data signal that you give to Google, right? So it doesn't even matter that you have 4 purchases. You think, yeah, right, I have 4 purchases, I'm profitable, great. Doesn't really matter what Google sees, right? And I mean, yes, of course, in the end, it's about the profit in your pockets, right? So if you had 4 sales, it worked well for you, great, congratulations. But you cannot send 2 signals to Google, so the whole learning phase takes longer, right? Because if you have 4 sales and you just track one every single day, it takes you 100 days. If you have 4 sales every single day and you track, I mean, you never track 100%, right? You have to understand that. But let's say I track 3 to 4. I speed up the whole process significantly, and then I'm there in like 2 weeks. That's super important. As we said, no soft conversions. You can have them in the account, but not as primary, only secondary. So as observation only. Then budget basing, once it works out, once you're out of the learning phase, everything runs smoothly. You start with a small budget. You keep it running for 1 to 2 weeks without touching anything. Just give it some time, let it learn, let it gather some data. Look at the soft metrics in the beginning. Hey, what's working already? What doesn't work at all? So you get a clear picture of it already. And hopefully, if you did everything right, you see some results coming in already. And then you can start to scale up slowly. As we said, give it 3 to 4 days, at least 3 days, and then you just scale up slowly, step by step. Don't overcomplicate it in the beginning. No target drawers, just keep it simple. All right, there's a quick overview on how it can look like, but in the end, it will be a bit more complex than that. But you keep it simple, you slowly scale up. The moment you get some momentum in, you want to get to this 50 to 100 conversion mark. And then it starts to become more interesting, right? Then you gain some traction, you start to scale up more, you speed up the whole process, the ads become more profitable, momentum starts to kick in. You continue to scale, and then later on, once you're at phase 4, that's a pretty decent store already, then you can start with more advanced optimizations, right? Then you want to split it up, control it a bit better based on performance. I mean, we usually start a bit earlier with that. You should start with it earlier as well if you have the know-how, so you can keep it lean and efficient. So that's just an approximate roadmap on how it can look like, so you get a better understanding. But especially in this first 2 phases, you want to keep it lean, you want to keep it simple. You have to get to this data threshold first. And that's pretty much it. And as we said, in terms of scaling rules, 10, 20%, the moment you feel like you can scale a bit, give it 3 to 4 days. Yeah, 5 days not needed. 3 to 4 days is fine. That's cool. And also, maybe that's something you can do already. You can exclude wasters from the campaign the moment an SKU has over 20 bucks in spend. Just exclude it because it will test a lot of products. So everything that doesn't work, you want to kill it very early on. And yeah, that's pretty much it at the video. Let's look at the bottom line again. It's not about doing everything beautiful. It's about doing one thing perfectly. And I think that kind of is the key principle of this video. Keep it simple, keep it consolidated, give it some time, go to the 50 to 100 conversion mark first, and then you're good to go.